Hello, everybody, and welcome to Impact. I'm Nick Barber, your host for the government segment, and today we have two special guests from the League of Women Voters of Schenectady County, Helga Schroeter and Cheryl Nachamen, both from the Schenectady County League of Women Voters. Well, welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And Helga, you are the judicial chair of the League of Women Voters.
Yes, and I have had that position for a while.
Yeah, I remember you from years ago, county legislature business and other community activities, many human rights issues.
Yeah, I used to serve on the Human Rights Commission.
You
as
were,
well.
yeah, that's I recall. Who was the director at that time? There was Brian Wright just retired.
Before that, George Roman.
Oh, George. George.
Good
Yeah.
old George.
Yeah, George Roman. Yes.
Yeah.
What does the judicial chair do? I know you were involved with the Fund for Modern Courts years ago, and that's changed. But what are your charges and interests as a judicial chairman for the League of Women Voters?
Well, locally for the Schenectady League, we have a pretty nice, strong committee of about 12 people who have been doing a number of things, going into the courts to observe. We have advocated for particular improvements in the courts. For example, when the Office of Court Administration first started creating drug courts and then also mental health courts, the league got involved in that and advocated for it.
Yes.
And we just really mostly observe and advocate.
Yeah. And that advocacy helps a lot of people with limited resources and women with dependent children, single parents, people that struggle and have a difficult time trying to weave through the system on their own. I mean, if you don't have the resources or can't afford an attorney or whatever, it makes it challenging. So that's where you fill in those voids.
Yes, well, mostly by observing and then pointing out shortcomings.
To the court system, to Office of Court Administration directly.
Yes.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's
We do not pass judgment on the rulings of the court because, that takes trained attorneys. But,
Yes.
We just observe and advocate for
the process and anything that they might have missed
Exactly.
that's important, and that's great. So you're a true advocate, or your members are advocates.
And that's typical for the league, in all its different positions. It's mostly an advocacy organization.
Yeah, and educational too, and that's where we're going to come to Cheryl. And then I'll get back to you because I'd like to talk about the recent issue of a vacancy, judicial vacancy, if you want to mention that, comment on it. But Cheryl, you are not only a member of the League of Women Voters, you're the news editor, put out the bulletin every month, and so and that's a challenge. I've been in a lot of organizations, and to get it consistently out with all the proper information, it's a great thing for the membership and for the public.
Well, actually, the league makes it really easy for me because the other members are really good about sending articles.
Yeah.
So I just have to assemble it. So
Okay.
It's really not too bad.
Oh, we have one with us today, and I've read it, so it's informative. You're also on the Schenectady City School District Board of Education. You're a board member.
Yep.
And that's pretty interesting. How long have you been on the school board?
For almost 2 years.
2 years? And how are you enjoying your experience? There's a lot of challenges. I say that tongue in cheek because it's
always interesting.
Yeah, school districts are having it tough these days. They're they get a bad rap. The voters. It's tough to get those budgets passed because they don't want to spend anything anymore. They just don't want their school taxes to go up.
Yeah.
But there's been funding issues with the state that have been ongoing. I remember I was with the community college and we used to, lobby and try to get more money from the state, for community college purposes across New York. But city school districts are having a very difficult time. We mentioned some statistics earlier. Maybe you want to talk about Schenectady's share.
Yeah, well, Schenectady gets about 54% of the state aid that we're supposed to get. And the statewide average is about 82%. So there is a big gap there.
That's a big gap.
Yeah. Actually, the league just organized an event a couple weeks ago where we had speakers from a rural, a suburban, and an urban district talking about the impact of the budget cuts. And it was interesting to see that we're all in the same boat. We have different challenges, but we all are really struggling with the funding right now between the the property tax cap and the state aid that's been
Right.
flat.
I know school districts don't really like the property tax cap. Any
We hate
government does, yeah. Any government doesn't like it. Not that they want to spend like drunken sailors, the old expression, but they don't want those limitations because the state doesn't understand the intricacies of budgeting and reimbursements and chargebacks and all the other issues involved in running a large school district. But you have to deal with it, you know.
Yeah.
But it seems like you're getting a double whammy from the state or the Schenectady School District because number one, you got the property tax cap, and number two, they just say, well, we don't have the money, so we'll give you
Ba-
30%
basically,
less
yeah.
than you're entitled to.
Mhm.
And that's a double whammy.
Right,
So-
and we do have high-need students. So
Yes.
they come to school, it takes a while to get caught up with the
Yes.
other kids. So
Yes.
we really do need that extra money.
Well, we talked about inner city schools, Schenectady, Albany, Troy. It's been said, I don't know if it's still true, that they speak like 16 different languages, the students, you know, because there's a lot of ethnic groups, you know, that we didn't have 30 years ago or so. So there's special needs that way, and then you have
Mhm.
special needs in
Just the poverty.
transportation, poverty, handicapped children.
Yeah. Mhm.
So how does it affect the system when you're getting 30% less than you should from the state? What suffers in a school district?
Well, every year you have to decide what you're going to cut. And that's the big problem is that if this was a one-time thing, every district could figure out where they could trim back. But it's year after year, the cuts keep coming.
Yes,
And so you know, first you drop your programs for electives, and then for brighter kids.
yeah,
Then you start dropping maybe kindergarten, maybe sports, until there's really nothing left that makes kids want to come to school.
What are you doing to advocate? I mean, is there ongoing negotiations with the state? Is there any
Well, our
light,
super-
any hope for, you know, better funding, or how's it going?
Well, our superintendent, Larry Spring, has certainly been spending a lot of time talking to legislators and the governor on how this formula should be changed.
Yes,
And pointing out that not only is there a poverty factor, but when you look at the racial distribution, it's really discriminating based on race, because the districts that are most underfunded also have very high minority populations.
yes, yeah, that's true. That's one way to look at it. Well, thank you. How long have you been in the League of Women Voters?
Only about 2 years.
2 years? That's good. That's good. New blood, you know. I mean, I'm sure your membership is strong. It's an important organization. I always remember the League of Women Voters and enrollment. Helga, we could talk about that. You're out in the public trying to get people to register to vote, voter awareness. You work with the Board of Elections, which is great, because voter apathy is a terrible thing.
Yes, and one of the good things we do in that department
Yes.
are the candidates forums. And,
Yes.
they are even
Right,
though, yes.
oh, I remember those. I was a participant years ago.
And
Yeah,
yes.
the candidates forums are excellent.
Yes,
Yeah.
and nowadays, of course, we can have them videotaped and shown on, public
Public
access.
access, yeah.
So they get a much wider audience than just the people who physically show up at the
Yeah.
forums.
And they get to know the candidates a little better,
Yes.
other than just a little
Mhm.
snippet on TV or in the newspaper where they don't even see them.
Exactly.
Like Impact,
Yeah.
we have here today. We're here to tell the public what's going on in the community. We're talking about the League of Women Voters. We have Helga Schroeter and Cheryl Nachamen here from the League of Women Voters of Schenectady County. And let's talk about that vacancy that was in the news recently. I think the League of Women Voters made some comments on a judicial vacancy in Schenectady County.
Yes,
What court is that?
that's the family court, because one of the judges became elected as Supreme Court Justice, and so now there's only one sitting judge, Judge Mark Powers. And actually, this court had already been recommended years ago for a third sitting judge, and now we are down to only one. The
Yes.
third one was never really implemented by legislation. So it's really a very busy court,
Oh,
just like
I've seen
and
it.
it's all connected also with all the school district issues, the high poverty rate and
Yes,
etc. Many single parent families,
yes,
and that court really is in high demand because it needs to solve many pressing problems for people. And,
yes,
even though the vacancy gets addressed by having visiting judges and so-called JHOs, judicial hearing officers,
yes,
it is not the same thing as having a consistent, steady judge sitting in that court. And
Yeah.
so we have urged the governor to expedite the process.
yes.
And it's not, probably not that unusual. There are probably other counties who are in similar situation.
Well, thank you, Helga. As far as that vacancy on the family court in Schenectady County, for the benefit of the audience, who was the judge that was elected to the Supreme Court that created this vacancy?
That is Judge Christine Clark.
Mhm.
She was an excellent family court judge.
She was,
And before that, she was a city court judge.
yes.
So, and was quite involved in creating the mental health court at that level. And as delighted as we are as a women's organization to see a woman
Yes.
sent to the Supreme Court, because our 11 county district for many, many, many years did not have a single woman.
Really, up until
as
recently, in
until
recent times?
recently,
Yeah.
yes. So that's good in itself, and there's really some progress. And
Yes.
I understand that at times she still may get assigned to some cases that are, that were her cases, but it's not like having her sit on in the family court on a regular basis.
Yes.
She will probably, there is another specialty court called the Integrated Domestic Violence Court,
Oh.
which is run in the Supreme Court part of the court system, and Judge Clark had already been presiding over that as an acting Supreme, and now
Oh,
she
good.
will probably still see those cases. But that only affects a limited number of cases, that are specific to domestic violence
Yes,
situations.
yes. Like the drug court's a special court,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So when Judge Clark got elected to the Supreme Court, you had, I don't know how to say it, two permanently assigned family court judges?
Yes, yes.
And now, do you have two, or is it down to one? And then
No, it's
visiting?
down to one.
Wow, for a county of this size. All right, let's ask this question. For a comparative county, Rensselaer, Saratoga, how many family court judges do they have in those counties?
I believe Rensselaer County has 2,
Yes,
Albany County has 3.
3. Well, it's a little bigger county, but,
Yeah.
okay, but still 3. So why?
Well,
I mean,
and
what, it's like the school, what is it they don't like about Schenectady County? The school system, the state doesn't want to give us any money for school aid. And in the judicial system, we don't have equal parity to other counties and family court judges. What's going
yes,
on here?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We used to be the city that halls and lights the world,
That's
or whatever.
right. That's right. Well, I'm just saying it's just an observation, but I'm sure there's many reasons for these things. But one family court judge in a county like Schenectady is like oppressive. I mean, it's got to be really tough to keep up with the caseload. And
Yes. Well, and most importantly, it really compounds the problems that many of the children already have, by
Yes.
not finding permanent solutions for
Yes.
them.
Well, in the interim right now, so with one family court judge, one permanently assigned one, how is that void filled? Do you have visiting judges, or what do they call them, where they come in temporary assignments to
Yes.
try to?
Well, I think
Cover
2 of
those
them are
gaps.
actual family court judges. I think one of the Saratoga County family court judges comes on occasion, and
Right.
I forgot now who the other one is. And then the judicial hearing officers are retired judges.
Yes.
And for example, Judge Idens, who used to be our county court judge,
Yes.
has that one of those assignments. But they are limited to what they can do. They cannot do all this, even though they were judges in the past.
Yes.
They cannot resolve all the issues in the family court.
Yes.
Because if people just don't want to accept their decision, it has to still go to the regular sitting family court judge.
Oh, I see. Okay, so there's just more like recommendations,
Yes,
I guess.
yes,
Are there statistics on caseload, like if you lose a Supreme Court, you lose a family court judge going to Supreme Court, do you observe, does the League of Women Voters observe caseloads, like numbers of cases a year and backlog? Do you get involved in observing those things?
Yeah,
Do you have any knowledge of backlog, or what's happening because we're missing that second judge right now?
Yeah, to some degree, and
Yeah.
we have sometimes invited a judge or an attorney to our committee meetings, to talk about those issues and
Yeah.
to get some more detailed information. But the third recommended judge, that was based on a statewide study several years ago. I forgot exactly. It goes a few years back.
Yeah.
When they, rather than appointing an extra judge here and an extra judge there, they tried to take a more comprehensive approach, and they looked at all the caseloads in all the courts, and then had recommendations which counties needed an additional judge.
Yes.
And that's where that third judge came from, but it was never implemented.
Yeah.
Money, money, money.
Yeah,
That's what
doesn't
it's
it all
about.
come down to money, just like the school district too, and it's unfortunate. But you're doing great work. It's important work because you bring out awareness, like we're doing here on Impact today, trying to inform the public of what the issues and problems are. The League of Women Voters does many other things. Cheryl, you do the bulletin, so what kind of stuff goes in the bulletin? What kind of committees are there in the League of Women Voters? What other things do you do?
Well, we do have a lot of active committees. The Health Committee is always organizing events. They've been talking about the Healthcare Reform Act and organizing forums for that. The Environment Committee is in the midst of organizing a three-part series on sustainable agriculture. So they just had a talk with 4 local farmers talking about the challenges they face.
Oh, that's good.
The next one will be about the policies that affect farmers. And then the third one is about how agriculture fits into the global perspective. When we lose our farms, how does that affect a lot of other things?
Yeah.
And in addition, we have observers. Helga mentioned for courts. They come to school board meetings, town board, and county legislature meetings.
And they're volunteers, right?
Oh, yeah.
You train
Yeah.
them. Who trains them? The court observers. How are they trained? Maybe Helga could answer
Well, the
that.
court observers
Yeah.
Have a special training, through
Yes.
the Fund for Modern Courts. The very formalized court observing, which is run through Modern Courts,
Yes.
usually has a training session, and then several meetings during the course of that particular observance, and then in the end, there's a final meeting where everybody comes up with their observations and comes to some consensus on what should be recommended. And then that report goes to the Office of Court Administration and, of course, all the judges and,
Yes. Well, that's great. It's all good work. I remember the candidates forums that we touched on. So the League of Women Voters, is it countywide or citywide? You sponsor like it's not a debate, but it's a forum where you get candidates for public office together
Yes.
and then showcase them to the public so the public can get to know them as individuals and also what their positions on issues are. That's pretty important because really you don't see that many of them. And a lot of candidates don't want to agree to debates or they don't want to go, for one reason or another. And you probably see some of that. I'm not mentioning any positions or names, but it's important for the public like this to be informed. And that's probably one of the biggest thing that the League of Women Voters does is inform the public on issues.
Yes.
So how does that work? I mean, do you do that every year? Is it for every office, or you can't do them all? So
Yes. Well, this coming year, for example, this year,
Yes.
I should say,
Yeah.
we will have all the local races, so
Okay.
we will actually hold forums in all the different towns
Oh, wow.
And so it's a big
That's going to be a lot
big
of work.
undertaking. It is a lot
Yeah,
of
it is
work.
a big undertaking.
Yes.
That's
And we
because-
do
yeah.
school board candidates too.
Oh, you
Too,
do,
yeah,
too?
we-
Yeah,
yes,
school board also.
Yeah, Ben
So,
is,
so I've been on the other side.
Have you been on the other side? How was it?
Scary.
Yeah, it is a
I
little
mean,
bit, yeah.
I participated in several of those, but the one run by the league
Yeah.
is the most formal.
It is. And it's fair, it's formal, and
very
it's,
fair.
and it's,
Yeah.
it's done that way for a reason, to
Yeah,
get
but-
the
but
issues
you
and
know-
positions out.
You know what to expect.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
and of course, the candidates get all asked the same questions, which is very helpful. So
Yes.
you can actually, as a voter, compare.
Right,
Where-
positions
yes,
on the
yes,
issues, and, yeah, what would happen if I vote for this person? What are they gonna do? How about your website? If someone wants to join the League of Women Voters, and here we'll put a little promotion out, how do they get a hold of you? I know you have a website, I'll mention it, and I guess it's in your newsletter, and hopefully we'll put it up on the screen, but it's www.lwvschenectady, spelled out, .org. So that's www.lwvschenectady, spelled out, .org, and that's the League of Women Voters. And if they want to join, they'll get a response, and I'm sure that you'll accommodate them. Well, I appreciate you coming today, both of you, and I don't know if I missed any other topics. If there's anything coming up soon that you'd like to discuss, here's your opportunity. Did we miss anything that's on your mind or minds?
Well, I was just thinking about the reason why I joined the league.
Oh, that's a good,
Especially since I'm a more recent member. I like the opportunity to really discuss issues, because it seems like nowadays people just kind of hurl statements at each other.
yes,
And the league really dives into the issues
yes,
and tries to have a reasonable discussion. For instance, when I was just elected to the school board, the league was doing a big education study. And I actually found out a lot of information that has been helpful to me ever since.
yes.
But that was one of the reasons why I joined, is just having that reasonable discussion.
Well, people join for various reasons. There might be one issue that irked them at one time in their life that was personal, and they want to try to do something constructive about it, or they just want to be involved in public policy and, learn. So there's a lot of good reasons to join the League of Women Voters. So if you want to join the League of Women Voters of Schenectady County, go to www.lwvschenectady.org, and they'll be happy to talk to you. We've been visiting with Helga Schroeter, the Judicial Chair, and Cheryl Nachamen, who is the news editor and education person, I guess you'd say, with your background. She's also on the Schenectady City School Board. We want to thank you both for coming today on Impact, and hope you come back again as topics and issues develop in the future. We'd love to have you come back. So thanks for coming and joining us. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. You've been watching Impact. I'm Nick Barber, your host. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Proctors, bringing the best in arts, education, and entertainment.